Vincent Gigante was a club fighter for a couple of years in the mid-40s. I think right after that, around 1946, 47, I got to know him. I was about 6 or 7 years old, and we always had a great relationship. And whenever I was in the city, I always took the opportunity to stop by and say hello to him, have a cup of coffee with him. He was like family. When I was confirmed in 1952, my uncle Pat was my sponsor. But as it turned out, you have to be confirmed in order to confirm someone else. And my uncle needed confirmation first. And Vincent stood up for my uncle. So him and his family are pretty close to our family. As a matter of fact, his wife's brother, his brother-in-law, was married to my father's sister. So there was sort of a relationship that existed. There were lots of times where I would be in the city, and on my way home, I'd stop by his cafe on Sullivan Street. If he was in there, I'd go in and have a cup of coffee with him, say hello, how's the family. I always felt there was some camaraderie there. And I knew he had a tremendous amount of respect for my father. When the assassination took place, my uncle told me not to go down there, to go downtown, not to talk to Chin, not to talk to anybody else. He never gave me a good reason why. He just said, just do as I say. Don't go down there. Don't talk to anybody. My assumption was that he was a little uncomfortable that I might say the wrong thing or ask the wrong question. But nevertheless, I abided by his wishes. However, when my uncle disappeared in June of 1976, I had no choice but to go down there and ask about him. And when I did, I went to Chin's apartment, and he wanted to know why I hadn't been down there since my father's murder. And I told him the reason why, that I was told not to come down there. He says, well, nevertheless, he says, you're here now. He says, you could ask me anything you want to know. I did. I asked him if he had any knowledge to my Uncle Pat's whereabouts, because he hadn't been seen for 3 or 4 days or heard from. We checked the most common spots that he might have been, but there was no positive result. And their interest seemed to be pretty thin. It was almost like, all right, so he's missing, so what? Almost like they had either something to do with it, or they just didn't want to tell me what happened. He was never found. We never retrieved the body anywhere. His car was found at the airport a month later, and there were no prints on it. But when I spoke to Mario Gigante, Chin's older brother, he says, I talk to you like you're one of us. I don't know. I don't know where he is. I don't know what he could have. He might have just picked up and absconded. I says, well, he kept it a pretty good secret. I says, nobody seems to know. I went to Chin's apartment. We sat down in his apartment. I said, I want to know why a man of my father's stature was left dying in the street. I says, why couldn't he have been made to retire? Why did it have to end this way? Well, his answer was, be glad that you have a grave to go to. Not like your aunt and your cousins. They don't have a grave to go to. So I was astounded. This was not the answer I was expecting, and I felt that it should end there. No more questions. And I left feeling unrequited, feeling like I was being treated like a kid. But when you're on the outside looking in, that's the way you get treated. Unfortunately, the relationship didn't continue because there was no more common ground. I don't think I saw him again after that. For the most part, I have no outstanding knowledge of his life after my father was gone, and they never inquired how my life was going. So it's a different world. It's a world that you're not always welcome in. So that was the kind of responses that I got.
Did your Uncle Pat ever convey to you that after your dad was murdered that something could happen to him? Was he leery?
Oh yeah, he did. He made it pretty clear to me that he was looking over his shoulder every day. That his day-to-day existence was not what it used to be. He no longer held the power that he did before. Basically, as he said, I went from being a lieutenant colonel to a corporal. I mentioned that in my book. And there are some little stories about my Uncle Pat that you'll find interesting in there also. Years later, when I was living in Florida, I think it was around 2005, I got Mario's number. I don't exactly remember how I got it or where I got it. I might have got it from Olympia, Chin's wife. Anyway, I called Mario. He was living in Sarasota, and I wasn't far away in Venice. So we made arrangements to have dinner one night with him and his wife and me and my wife. And we met at a restaurant in Sarasota and enjoyed dinner. During the course of dinner, he briefly had mentioned that they were very proud of the way I conducted myself after my father's demise. That I guess he meant that I kept my mouth shut. I didn't talk about it to anybody. I didn't make any waves for anybody. And as far as they were concerned, I was being a good boy, for whatever that's worth. I thanked him, and I let him know that I was being a good boy because I had an idea that I should be a good boy.